Hello again. We are continuing our discussion of Algebra 1. We are moving on to the next chapter, and we're going to start by talking about how to graph linear equations. But before I graph them, it would be really nice if I could tell whether an equation is linear or not. So here's how you tell whether an equation is linear or not. If you can write it as some constant a times x plus another constant b times y equals a third constant c, then it is a linear equation. It doesn't mean that it has to be in that form already, but I need to be able to convert it to that form. So if I have something like y equals 3x plus 7, it's not in the right form, but if I convert it algebraically, I can make it look like 3x minus y equals negative 7, which is exactly the form I'm looking for. So that is a linear equation. However, if I have something like xy minus 8 equals 6x, that xy term at the very beginning, I can't split that into an x term and a y term, so this is not a linear equation. Alright, so here's how I graph an equation that is in standard form. The first thing I want to do is I want to find the intercepts. Basically, I only need 2 points in order to figure out where a line is. So if I can figure out where it crosses the x-axis and the y-axis, then I will have my 2 points. So those 2 points are called the intercepts. Okay? To find the x-intercept, or where it crosses the x-axis, I'm going to set y equal to 0. The reason I do that is because if you look at every point on the x-axis, you don't need to go up or down at all to get to any of those points. So the y-coordinate of every point on the x-axis is 0. So if I set y equal to 0 for that equation, I can figure out what the x is supposed to be. So if I cover up my y's, then I get ax equals c, so my x-coordinate of my x-intercept is going to be c over a. Remember, my y-coordinate is 0, so I just find the point c over a, comma 0, and I put a point there. That's one of my 2 points. Okay. Similarly, I have to find the y-intercept, so I cover up my x's. Same logic there. I'm going to set x equal to 0 because if I look at every point on the y-axis, I don't need to go left or right to get there. So every point on the y-axis has an x-coordinate of 0. So if I set x equal to 0, I'll figure out what y is supposed to be. So if I set x equal to 0, that makes that whole ax term disappear, so I can just cover it up. And that leaves me with an equation of by equals c. So if I divide both sides by b, I get y by itself equals c over b. So the x-coordinate is 0 because I set it to that, and the y-coordinate is c over b because I solved for that. So now I have 2 points. That's all I need to draw a line. I connect those 2 points, and I draw a line. Okay, so that's in theory how it works. Let's look at an example, 3x minus 2y equals 12. So I'm going to set y equal to 0, so basically I cover up my y's, and I get an equation of 3x equals 12. And if I solve that, 3 times a number equals 12, that number has to be 4. So my x-intercept is at 4 and 0. So I plot that point. Then I set x equal to 0 to find my y-intercept. And if I do that, I have to remember there's a sign there in front of that y term, so it's actually negative 2y equals 12, so y will equal negative 6 once I divide both sides by negative 2. I plot that point as well on the y-axis. Now I have 2 points, and I know exactly where the line goes. And there it is. So there's an example of how to do that. Okay, now if it is not in standard form, then what you're going to have to do at this point is make a table. So here's my table, or here's my equation, rather. I have y equals 2/3 x minus 4. So there it is right there. I'm going to plug in, I'm going to create certain x's. I'm going to figure out what 2/3 times those x's minus 4 is, and then calculate what the y is. Now because I'm multiplying x by 2/3, it would be wise of me to pick x's that are multiples of 3. That way I can find 2/3 of those numbers easily, and then my y's will be whole numbers. So if I start with an x-coordinate of negative 3, and I plug it into 2/3 x minus 4, that's what it's going to look like. 2/3 times negative 3 minus 4. And a calculator will tell you that that is negative 6. Okay, so I plot that point right there. Moving on, I'm going to try x equals 0, figure out what 2/3 times that 0 is, minus 4, and that is negative 4. Moving on, I'm going to try an x of 3. Plug that into 2/3 x minus 4. That's going to give me negative 2. So I plot that point. And I'm going to do one more. Really, I only need two, but it's nice to have some backups just in case I make an error in calculations. So the last x I'm going to try is 6. Plug that into my expression, 2/3 times 6 minus 4, and that gives me 0. So now I have 4 points, and they look like they line up pretty well. I don't think I made any mistakes there, so I can go ahead and draw the line. So that is basically how you graph linear equations. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I will see you tomorrow.